Stop everything, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just another urgent headline. It's a heartbreak tearing through millions of homes at once. Deitrick Haddon, the voice of gospel, the man who turned pain into praise and handed hope to the hopeless, now lies in a hospital bed, fighting for each breath like it's his last. Only hours after a major operation, at exactly 2 a.m., the calm inside the emergency ward shattered. Sirens shrieked, crimson lights strobed, nurses sprinted, and then came the sentence no one was ready to hear. He's having a heart attack. Physicians wrestled with the crisis as his body trembled on the ventilator. Beyond those doors, Dr. Jackie, the iron pillar who has held steady through every storm, slumped against a wall, tears carving trails down her face. Her voice broke into a weary whisper, repeating the same stunned confession. I brought him back from the brink on the operating table. How is this happening again? Then a report surfaced. One line, black and clinical, chilled the blood. Heart failure risk 90%. Within minutes it leaked. The world knew. Screens everywhere flashed the same alarm. Deitrick Haddon fights for his life. Hashtags erupted, with hashtag Pray for Deitrick sweeping across platforms like a brush fire. Sanctuaries filled through the night. Fans fell to their knees in living rooms, pleading for a miracle. Inside the ICU, a single doctor gave the most devastating briefing yet. The next 48 hours will decide everything, life or death. And now the world waits, praying, sobbing, hoping, because if Deitrick's voice goes silent tonight, it won't just be the passing of a man. It will feel like something sacred breaking inside millions of souls. 2 o'clock should have been a quiet hour. Instead, the hospital exploded into motion. Alarms bored through the sterile hush. Red beacons washed the corridors as staff converged on one door. The door of the gospel legend who had made faith feel like oxygen. Earlier that evening, the surgery had ended. Relief followed. Fans were told stable. Family exhaled. Dr. Jackie, who had navigated every hard decision with a surgeon's precision and a believer's calm, even allowed herself a brief, fragile smile. Then everything caved in at once. Inside the room, his body began to shudder. His heart rate plunged. The steady metronome of the monitor became a frantic, uneven siren. Crash cart, and nurse cried. Another pushed meds into his four with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Then came the words that froze the air. Cardiac arrest. He's in full cardiac arrest. Time fractured. Seconds turned to years as doctors pounded his sternum, trying to coax a dying rhythm back to life. The percussion of CPR cracked the room like gunfire. His chest rose and fell by machine, while his own strength slipped away like water. Outside, Dr. Jackie leaned into the cold wall, fingers trembling. She had always been steel. Tonight, she was splintering. Tears slid as she muttered again and again, I pulled him back once. I can't lose him again. She clutched a file she had studied only hours earlier, and there, printed in stark type, was the line she couldn't forget. Risk of total heart failure, 90%. She had prayed the operation would lower those odds. But now, as chaos unfolded a few feet away, that percentage felt less like math and more like prophecy. Secrets do not survive long. An insider tipped the media. Bulletins cut into scheduled shows. Breaking. Gospel icon Deitrick Haddon suffers massive heart attack post-surgery. The headline cracked across the country like thunder. Social feeds detonated. People who had gone to sleep believing he was safe woke to devastation. Within the hour, hashtag Pray for Deitrick surged to the top of the world's trends. Churches unlatched their doors in the small hours. Congregations gathered, singing his hymns while begging heaven to spare him. In countless homes, families knelt. On corners, strangers embraced and wept, refreshing their phones for news. This was never just about a star. It was about a shepherd's voice, the voice that steadied the broken, now tottering at the cliff's edge. Inside, the fight raged on. We're losing him, shouted one physician. The defibrillator charged. Paddles pressed the skin. His body snapped upward. Once. Twice. A third time. The line on the screen stayed flat. Then, A miracle, one tiny spike, a flicker. The machine ticked again, faint but real. The team exhaled in relief, though no one relaxed. His pulse had returned, barely. When the clinicians stepped into the hallway, their expressions told the story before they could speak. A doctor, white-faced and drained, said softly, "He's with us right now, but the next 48 hours will tell us whether he lives." The words crashed into the waiting crowd. A scream. Someone collapsed. Dr. Jackie covered her face, her body quaking under the weight of what she couldn't control. Cameras swarmed. Questions flew. After a long silence, Jackie faced the lights, eyes swollen, voice tattered, and said, "He's fighting with all he has. But I need the world to hear me. We've crossed into a place beyond medicine. Only a miracle can save him." That clip raced across the globe within hours. Her trembling honesty cut to the bone. Even people who had never known Deitrick's music suddenly found themselves whispering prayers for a stranger they now felt they loved. Then came the detail that undid everyone. A nurse quietly shared what he'd murmured before the collapse, breath shallow, voice fading, turning to a friend at his bedside to say, "If I don't make it, tell the world my songs were always prayers in disguise." The sentence scorched through timelines, tearing through composure. It was replayed and quoted, turned into graphics and posts, filling comments with sobbing emojis and broken hearts. It didn't read like a statement. It sounded like a goodbye. By dawn, the ground swelled. Fans surrounded the hospital with candles. Gentle choruses rose up through the chilled air. Posters read, "Don't give up, Deitrick." Others stood in stunned quiet, hanging their faith against the windows like lanterns. Inside, the work never stopped. Machines throbbed. Lines ran. Alarms threatened to break the quiet at any breath. Through it all, Jackie lingered in the corridor, refusing rest, voice barely audible. "God, please." Not yet. Not yet. The world watched with held breath. For many, this was bigger than one man's survival. It was a test of whether hope itself could hold. When morning finally arrived, the hospital no longer felt like a building, but like a battleground of grief and devotion. Outside, shoulder to shoulder, crowds clutched candles and placards and beads. The air hummed with hymns and tears. Reporters pressed against barricades, clawing for a sliver of news on a life suspended by threads. Inside, the tension turned the white walls into something close to suffocation. Nurses hustled with trays of critical meds, their eyes rimmed with fatigue. Every distant chirp, every mechanical sigh took on the gravity of a verdict. At the center of all that noise and prayer, Deitrick lay pale beneath a forest of lines and tubes, the machines around him singing an eerie duet. His chest rose with borrowed air. Yet even in fragility, he looked like a man still gripping something unseen, straining with the last fibers of spirit. Jackie's eyes, red from weeping, glassy from exhaustion, never left the hallway. Her phone bulged with messages from fans and famous names, each one carrying the same plea. Don't give up. But she knew what the team had told her. This was the fight of his life, and the numbers were brutal. That 90% wasn't a theory. It was a cliff. Then something no one forecast happened. At noon, an internal video surfaced online. Someone in the building had filmed the frenzy from the night before. The sirens, the commands, the sprinting nurses, the jolting body, the count of compressions. Less than 2 minutes long, the clip nevertheless moved like fire in dry grass. Millions watched, stunned, as the man who once ignited arenas with energy lay limp while science tried to haul him back. Comments flooded the screen. "I'm shaking. I can't stop crying. Please don't leave us. God, do something." Within hours, it became the year's most shared video. What should have remained sealed behind sterile doors became a global spectacle. Now people weren't only awaiting updates, they were demanding them. Reporters intercepted Jackie as she stepped from the ICU. Microphones thrust toward her, strobes washing her face. She steadied herself and told the truth with a voice equal parts clinical and broken. The operation went as planned, but everything after was catastrophic. He arrested. We revived him. His condition is still critical. The next 48 hours will decide the outcome. Keep praying. Hearing the words catastrophic and cardiac arrest from the very doctor leading his care hit like a funeral bell. And still, hope fluttered stubbornly. As daylight dimmed, gatherings spread across the country. New York to L.A., Detroit to Atlanta, sanctuaries brimmed. Hands linked. Voices rose through tears, communities singing his songs as if sending a rope into the night for him to grab. Some choirs sang, "Well done," as though it were a final benediction. Meanwhile, inside, Jackie absorbed another blow. A nurse quietly passed along Deitrick's last whisper before he fell under. "If I don't wake up, tell them my voice was a prayer God lent me." Jackie stumbled into the chapel and dropped her knees. The echo of her grief carried down the hall. No camera recorded it, yet those who heard said the sound could split stone. Tragedy, however, wasn't finished. That evening, another leak, this time the medical record itself. Stamped confidential, it spilled across the internet. Phrases like high risk, multi-organ strain, end-of-life preparation. Readers staggered. Some refused to believe the words applied to the man who'd soundtracked their healing. Outrage followed. Who leaked this? Why now? Is the hospital hiding more? For Jackie, it was too much. The duty to protect her patient and friend while the world pressed for bloodless facts. By midnight, the scene outside turned otherworldly. Hundreds lit the street with phone flashlights, chanting his name in waves. Some shouted, "Wake up, Deitrick!" Others sobbed, so quietly that their tears darkened the concrete beneath their knees. Police closed streets as the crowd swelled, desperation becoming something almost holy. Inside, the staff braced for another endless night. Devices hummed, alerts threatened, meds cycled by the clock. Jackie, emptied of words, sat with her head in her hands. When a reporter approached gently, she didn't turn them away. "People think doctors don't feel," she whispered. "But I've watched his music heal souls for years, and I can't heal his." Those words raced through the world, not just an update, but a confession that hurt to hear. As the night dragged, whispers spread that the end might be near. Sources said his body wasn't responding, that organs were failing. Panic surged online. Hashtags shifted from hashtag #PrayForDH to hashtag #SaveDeitrick. Millions begged heaven for intervention. Then, in the thickest hours, the monitors screamed again. The line flattened. Staff flooded the room. Pads, syringes, rigid cadence. The sound of heartbreak echoed down thin walls. The world seemed to stop at once. Was this the moment everything ended? At 3:17 a.m., the ICU doors slammed, the code team poured in, and the flatline sang its single note. Controlled chaos took over. Nurses shoved crash carts into place. Adrenaline snapped from vials into packs of gauze and gloves. Defibrillator readouts climbed. On the bed, the body lay motionless, skin waxen, chest exposed to cold air. 1, 2, 3 shock. The torso leapt. Nothing. Again. The screen flickered, then trailed into silence. A hush wrapped the room, broken only by ragged breaths. At the foot of the bed, Jackie clenched the rail with whitening knuckles. Tears blurred her view, but she refused to look away. In that instant, she wasn't only a practitioner, she was friend, sister, believer. Watching him slip away felt like watching the world tilt off its axis. Then, impossible as it seemed, a dot twitched on the monitor. A pulse. Weak but present. "We've got him," someone shouted. The beeping returned, fragile and tentative, like hope relearning its steps. It wasn't victory, just survival by the thinnest thread. Outside, the news blasted from cameras as if electrified. "He is alive, by a miracle, hanging on." A global breath escaped, but relief lasted seconds. Jackie stepped out, cheeks wet, and spoke the truth no one wanted. "He's back, but not safe. His organs are failing. We are in God's hands." Her voice fractured, and millions felt their own hearts break in sympathy. By sunrise, the hospital was a fortress. Security pushed against tides of people, yet the tide would not recede. Fans refused to leave. Their chants rolled like surf. "Hold on, Deitrick. Bibles clutched in fists, songs rising through sobs, some standing mute with eyes fixed on windows that did not look back. Then the cruelest leak of all, an audio clip of Deitrick's last clear words before the attack. His voice was faint but unmistakable. "If I don't make it, tell the world I love them. Tell them my songs were my prayers. Tell my children I'm sorry." The moment it hit the web, whatever composure remained around the world evaporated. People sobbed into their phones. Hashtags began to look like memorial walls, even as the story still unfolded. Public figures and pastors and artists wrote tributes calling him prophet, healer, vessel, someone who emptied himself for others. Cameras caught mothers collapsing at the gate, children clutching poster board pleas, grown men on their knees begging God to relent. Inside, Jackie held the line for both of them. She never left his side, soft prayers threading the beeps. She pressed her palm to his chest and whispered, "If your heart won't fight, mine will fight for you." But the numbers didn't bend. His pressure dipped again. Machines squealed. The team moved, swift but wearing the lines of a battle fought for too many hours. Triumphs shrank. The silence between alarms grew crowded with dread. On the second night, the valley deepened. Jackie called a late press briefing. Her voice was rough, her eyes hollow. She faced the lights and delivered the sentence that felled the last sturdy pieces of hope. "We're preparing for the worst. If he lives through tonight, it will be nothing short of a miracle." That soundbite looped on every screen, turned up on every radio, scrolled past every thumb. It felt like defeat marching through the streets. Outside, people dropped to their knees in unison. Churches streamed all-night vigils, choirs singing until voices frayed. The whole world seemed to pause, straining for the sound of mercy. Inside, the ICU fell nearly silent, only machines humming and air moving. Jackie sat beside him, fingers laced with his, telling him stories of tour buses, of his children's laughter, of faces in a crowd who clung to his lyrics like life rafts. Tears slipped as she pleaded, "Don't leave me like this. Don't leave them like this." And just before dawn, the monitor leapt again, this time strong, stubborn, bright with defiance. Against predictions, against sense, his heart surged. The team froze, stunned. Jackie crumpled to the floor, sobbing from a place beyond exhaustion. For the first time in days, she let belief back in. Maybe this wasn't the end after all. News crawlers flashed. He survives a second collapse, doctors baffled. The planet breathed. Cheers erupted. Hashtags turned like tides, from mourning to praise. "God's not done with him," read thousands of posts. Yet no one knew better than Jackie. This wasn't healing. It was survival borrowed from tomorrow. His body was still failing, the thread still frayed. So she faced the world again, a last plea trembling out of her. Don't stop praying. Don't stop believing. Tonight, we were given a miracle. Tomorrow we may need another. That sentence echoed, a bell tolling hope and warning at once. And as pink light crept over the roofline, one question hung heavier than all the headlines and chants and tears combined. Was this the first step of his recovery, or the quiet before the final farewell? We stand now on the knife's edge of this story, staring down a truth too large to blink away. The battle for Deitrick Haddon's life isn't finished. He stared into the darkest hours, flatlined twice, and somehow, against arithmetic and logic, he's still here. But he is held by a filament. We've already seen the unthinkable, leaked footage of a breathless body being pulled back from absence. The last tender words recorded for a world he may have been preparing to leave. The doctor who has always been a fortress, finally breaking, admitting that even the finest science might not be enough. We've watched millions collapse into prayer, as if hearts around the world could become one enormous defibrillator. Yet now the question no one wants to speak out loud insists on being voiced. What if this is the finish? What if the man who turned pain into praise, who lifted the broken by lifting his own voice, the father, the friend, the messenger, what if he doesn't come back? If tomorrow brings silence, we will lose more than a chart-topping artist. We will lose a lantern that guided countless through midnights. We will lose a prayer walking around in human skin. So tonight, as the clock crawls through these last critical hours, don't swipe past this moment as if it were ordinary. Share it. Pray harder. Hold the people you love closer. Because if Deitrick's journey teaches anything, it's that breath is fragile, time is a flicker, and tomorrow is never guaranteed. The world watches. The world weeps. The world prays. Will dawn bring a miracle or a goodbye that echoes forever?